As the offseason continues on, there seems to be more smoke surrounding the Jimmy Butler situation as it pertains to the Sixers. And to be perfectly honest, it's not the kind that I want to see. Though we do have a recent update regarding the potential trade outlook, the draft compensation that would be desired, and it is stuff that does scare me. So to get right into it, we have this update that came out today saying that the Miami Heat are unlikely to be interested in Philadelphia's assets in a potential trade for Jimmy Butler, despite Philadelphia being able to offer up to 3 first-round picks and 3 first-round pick swaps. And the quote says, even if the 76ers offer their 3 available first-round picks and 3 first-round pick swaps, it seems unlikely that would entice Miami, which loathes the idea of trading all-star caliber player for draft picks. Hold on. Jimmy Butler who? The 34-year-old version of Jimmy Butler? The version of Jimmy Butler that has not played 65 games in a season since he wore a Sixers jersey? We're talking 3 first-round picks and 3 first-round pick swaps? Yeah, I do not know about that one. And to shout out to Barry Jackson, who was the one with the initial report, who does jump in saying you missed the second part, which is that the inclusion of a third team makes this realistic. And that is the point that I did want to hit on that does give us a chance here. And I think that there's the important part to note here when talking about the framework of things, that's also kind of essential from the Sixers end, as for all the flexibility that is brought on from clearing out the roster, they also don't have anything to trade to match salaries to make this deal done. And I've seen a couple different variations of a trade floating out there. A popular one which has picked up some steam is a potential 3-team or even 4-team trade in which the bones of it are Donovan Mitchell getting down to Miami, Jimmy Butler up to Philadelphia, and then a couple teams benefiting from the other stuff. I did want to pull up one mock trade here that I thought kind of fits that bill. I don't know how super realistic this is, but I did think this is kind of the concept that is worth talking about. So this has the Heat getting Donovan Mitchell and Kyle Kuzma. This is in a four-team trade. The Cavs walking away with Tyler Hero, the 15th pick, which is the Heat, and then a couple other first-round picks, including the Clippers pick from the Sixers, and then the Sixers getting Jimmy Butler, and the Wizards walking away with Paul Reed, a couple other draft picks, and basically the stuff of this. This is sort of the framework that does make sense to me, that I do see a world where that is what gets the job done. That is Donovan Mitchell heading down to Miami, it's Jimmy Butler heading back to Philadelphia, but there's still a lot of legs to make that happen. And my biggest takeaway from this report even coming out, number one, the fact that the Heat had to say something is a little noteworthy to me. That is a little puzzling. The fact that there is a report floating out there that the Heat are not interested in the package that the Sixers have. Well, why was that being talked about? That is something that has been shut down. And according to Pat Riley at his press conference, that they have zero plans to trade Jimmy Butler. But in that same press conference, Pat Riley also told Jimmy Butler to shut his mouth when he's not playing due to the little trash talk on Twitter. Now, to talk about Jimmy a little bit more as a whole here, kind of hits to my main point here. The Jimmy Butler that we're getting may not be the Jimmy Butler that we need. But the unfortunate reality here, that may be the case with all these guys. The same conversation I can have with Paul George. That the primetime Paul George is the exact player that the Sixers team needs. But he's not quite that anymore. We just tried this with James Harden, where you could see it in glimpses, that there were games in which James Harden had it. You saw the vision. You saw that's the reason we have this guy. And there are also a lot of games in which that was not the case. And while I think Harden was honestly better for this franchise than I think probably the general temperature of him is, and I'm still thankful for the influence that he's had on Tyrese Maxey. I do think he played a major part in catapulting his career, just as far as Maxey's understanding of how to do a lot of things at the NBA level when it pertains to switching gears, attacking the rim, the step back that you can clearly see the influence in his game, his ability to play make. But the bottom line is Maxey's taken the keys, Maxey's become this number 2 option, and you have to find out what that tertiary star is, that link between Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. And that's where I have a little bit of concern with Jimmy Butler, because we know what Jimmy Butler is best at. Now, for starters, we do know that he's going to be content coasting through the regular season, that the inning eater opportunities are going to be Tyrese Maxey, that it's going to be looked at as him to carry the torch in the regular season. Now, to jump into his stats specifically, this year with the Heat averaged 20.8 points per game, 5.0 assists, 5.3 rebounds, again, shot a career high from 3, 41.4% on the season. And then to compare them to the playoff stats here, where playoff Jimmy comes to full force, I will say it wasn't as stark of a difference as I think it is in everyone's brain. And to dive in, we'll just look at some of his best seasons. We'll run off last year's deep run that he had 26.9 points per game, 6.5 rebounds, 5.9 assists, did see the three-point volume go up. That through his career, he attempts 3.5 three-point attempts per game in the playoffs compared to during the regular season, just 2.4 there. One of the strange differences in the just Jimmy Butler experience, and there are a lot of those weird things. I don't want it to get lost, the version of Jimmy Butler that showed up in Philadelphia the first time. That was a guy who went through a month period where he just decided, I'm not shooting three-pointers anymore. And this was in the middle of the spacing crunch where they needed Ben Simmons to figure out how to shoot. That obviously never happened, and that is a lost cause. But Jimmy was not the guy to be that optimal point. When you think about what this Sixers team needs, I'm still not sure if he quite is. That yes, the playoff influence is important, and in my heart, I want nothing more than to see the trio of Jimmy Butler, Tyrese Maxey, and Joel Embiid win a championship. But in my head, it does feel like the risk may outweigh the rewards here. And the other part to bring into that factor is, once again, to compare him to Paul George. Paul George can opt out of his contract, become a free agent, and the Sixers straight up sign him. To get Jimmy Butler, you have to go out of your way to bring him in. That you have to dig into that treasure chest of assets to get the Jimmy Butler. And to dive into that contract specifically, which they're taking on, Jimmy Butler due $46.7 million this year, and then a player option next year for $52 million. That's a lot of money to be committing to a guy, especially because a lot of the friction that is seeming to be occurring in the Miami Heat organization right now has to do with the contract extension situation. So Jimmy Butler is going to want to get paid, and the Sixers have to be aware of that if they want to do any sort of business with him. Now, for the Sixers specifically, you also have to weigh that it always takes two to tango. So are you bailing the Heat out here? Are you getting them out of a problem more than you're helping yourselves? I think there is a world where you can take that outlook. And again, the digging into the assets is the biggest factor here, because there is this constant conversation that I've seen swirling in the Sixers universe on, do they need the third star or do they need to build up the role players? Now, to cut it point blank, both is the answer in my mind. That the selling point on the third star, I do very much believe the best route for this team to win a championship is to have the supporting cast that allows Joel Embiid not to be necessary on an every night basis. That to get through the regular season, he should be able to take off the games against the bad Memphis Grizzlies of the world, or the Washington Wizards of the world, the Detroit Pistons. There should be nights where you say, Joel, we don't need you tonight. We need to save you. We need to prioritize the health of your body. For that to be possible, you have to find guys capable of carrying the torch on the nights where he's out. And that's where the third star argument comes into me, because we've seen how good Tyrese Maxey has gotten. There's no doubt about what a talent that he is, but he's not quite this floor of a franchise in the way a player of Joel Embiid's caliber can be. That every single night that Joel Embiid is out there, the Sixers have a chance to win regardless of the opponent. Tyrese Maxey has not ascended to that level yet, and I don't mean that as a dig at him. That the dude is 23 years old, still getting better, and is already at a level far beyond what any of us could have expected at this point. But I do think bringing in that quote-unquote third star to pair with him gives this team a significant advantage in the nights in which Joel Embiid's not here. Now, to all these points, I don't know if Jimmy Butler is that guy, because he has very similar issues as far as staying on the court. And to dive into the regular season, the numbers that he has played throughout his career, we're talking these past couple seasons, 60 games, 64 games, 57 games, 52 games, 58 games, and then, of course, the season with the Sixers, in which he played 55 with the Sixers and 65 total. We also have not seen Jimmy Butler stay healthy through a playoff run in several years to this point. I guess that applied to Joel Embiid as well, so I didn't fully need to correct myself. But the point being that, is that the guy that you're looking at to be your savior? There are red flags. There absolutely are red flags. And while Jimmy Butler, in a lot of our brains, is this savior of the Sixers, this dog that is the missing piece even to this day, maybe that's not quite him. And even for all the success that he's had in Miami, for his ability to elevate that franchise in the postseason in a way that very few players are capable of, he still doesn't have a ring on his finger. That this is all, I don't want to say for nothing, but it has not resulted in the championship in the way that, he seems to carry himself as if he has plenty of that. And I do respect the confidence. I do love the alpha dog mentality. I do think Tyrese Maxey is built to take that far more than the Ben Simmons of the world were during Jimmy Butler's first tenure here. But he's not the perfect player, and we should stop pretending like that is the case. From a basketball fit, I would prefer he takes more threes. I prefer he was, better in an off-ball standpoint, that as much as Jimmy is still effective at, being a floor spacer, being the guy content sitting in the corner, he's only really dynamic when he has the ball in his hands, when he's creating off pick and rolls and those type of opportunities, and that means you're taking it out of Tyrese's. Now, there is a give and take here that I think, frankly, it'd be nice to have another outlook for a guy that can handle the ball, that I think at times there was too much on Tyrese Maxey's plate, but you still got to think about guys that fully optimize them, not making it work. And from the personality standpoint, the Sixers have their pecking order. It's Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey's team. You're looking for the third star. Is Jimmy Butler cool with taking a back seat? Do we know that? Are we sure of that? Now, these are questions that I directly think should be asked by Joel Embiid. We can forget the tampering nonsense. Joel, get on that phone, make a couple calls, and see what we're dealing with. I do think there is some legitimacy to that. Jimmy Butler has worn out his welcome in Miami. We've talked about him having such a short shelf life as a player that we've seen it in Minnesota, we've seen it in Chicago, we've seen it in Philadelphia, and it looks to me like we're seeing the start of it in Miami. That, to the credit of the Miami Heat organization, the Heat culture that they have built, that they've been sustaining this in a way that no other franchise had. And obviously, that's directly tied to the success on the floor. But, there's an end for everything. And Jimmy Butler's, that occurs when he wants it to occur. And that's something that has been crystal clear over the years, that he will pull the exact same cards that we've seen from these stars. If he wants out of there, he's going to find his way, whether that means making people uncomfortable, whatever it takes, that he will get the job done. So, I do think there is a world where that is what's going on in Miami right now, and that will be something interesting to monitor throughout the offseason. There are, for now, still some nice quotes going out about his commitment to the organization, his love for the city, all these things, but I do think that Pat Riley comment telling him to shut his mouth if he's not playing is a little more than a throwaway in my mind. So let me know what you guys think. I'm fully out on Jimmy Butler if it is the price is 3 first-round picks and 3 pick swaps. I can be talked into it a little more in this type of 3-team trade or framework. So we'll see whatever shakes out from there. But I do appreciate you guys tuning into this video. Make sure you are smashing that like button, dropping your comments, and hitting that subscribe button to keep the Digest family growing. Appreciate each and every one of you, and talk next time. Peace.